hope that worked. Oh, looks like we are live,
Nice.
but I'm not seeing anything come up on the screen. Maybe we just gotta wait for a bit. Andrew, how are you?
I'm okay, I think. How are you, Max?
I'm
How's your
good.
life been?
We are live. I've confirmed we are live. Let me check your audio levels on the stream real quick. You mind saying something?
Yep, here I am saying things.
All right, you sound fine on the stream, though I sound kind of dog shit. New mic and all that. Andrew, you want to give me you want to give me some time to see if I can fix my the sound of my breathing on this mic? Why don't you tell us about the new games and whatever else you're doing right now?
Make videos and stuff about making games. I'm gonna be working on a new game pretty soon. Yeah. Um, what else can I say about that? I have, like, resources for people to learn about game dev and stuff. Um, yeah, if people are interested in game dev, they might have heard about Choo Choo Charles. Have you heard about Choo Choo Charles, Max? Choo Choo Charles is a new game that came out that was super popular. I did a video talking about why it blew up and what the guy was up to, why his game did so well. Um, yeah, this one guy made like almost $2 million in his first week of launch, which is crazy. I have a pretty controversial video about why game dev tutorials will ruin your life and crush your dreams. Um, I think it's a pretty good video. I think I have some good information in there, but people were upset about it in the comments. But they can go ahead and enjoy their lives. um, and I also have videos about how to finish your game, um, marketing, Danny, Gloomwood. Another one on how to finish your game, starting game dev, getting the perfect game idea, and yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. I can tell you guys about my game. We wait. Um,
All right.
you're back. Excellent.
I might be.
Excellent.
This
Okay.
this is kind of super fucking fucking trash.
Uh
But
oh.
I don't know. How do I sound? Do I have like this absurd like terrible breathing?
Not how I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you just fine. And check the stream.
Yeah, okay. It's sounding okay. I have to get a proper mic at some point. But I had the computer, which is now gone, so I'm running this off of a work laptop, which isn't
Oh
great.
shoot.
Uh, but yeah, we're saving money. I'm saving about $1,000 a month, which is pretty good, I think.
Nice. Yeah. Great.
Well, $1,000 for you, Andrew. I don't know if you're aware of the conversion rate, but I am a millionaire now. Juan's got
Amazing.
3 decimal places moved, so no, but
Is that the conversion? Like basically like a solid like 1,000.
yeah. So basically, I make about uh, I make a little over $2,000 a month.
Okay.
After like, 'cause I get like free housing as well. So I think it's like 2.2 million plus free housing plus a meal. Which
Nice.
housing a third of my meals is a pretty. It's most of my expenses. So about
Nice.
$1,000, $1,000,000 is about 1,000 Canadian dollars. So it's about a
Did they give you
three-digit
a?
difference.
They gave you like? Is it a room in a house? Is it an apartment? Is it like a full on house? Like what is it?
It's an
Let me ask.
apartment. It's
Okay.
so if you ever look up like Korean apartments, it's basically that. I have a kitchen slash living room that's combined into one, and then
Okay.
I have like my front hallway, and on the left, or I guess the right side coming in, I have a washing machine, no dryer, just a washing machine, and then I have a Korean bathroom, which are kind of interesting because the entire thing is like a giant shower that happens to have a toilet and covered electrical outlets and a sink in it. And
Okay.
then on the other side, on the left side, is a staircase that goes up to like this. It's not. It's like an overhang. So to give you an idea, the apartment itself is about 1.5 stories tall. So the actual room is about 1.5 stories tall, and so the bedroom is about half a story tall
Oh.
because you're just supposed to sleep up there. So there's like it's like a loft or it's like this overhang thing. So I have like this square thing that's like over top of a quarter of my apartment, and then just high walls for the rest of it.
Interesting.
There's other stuff that's kind of cool to get used to. So like the main form of heating is heated floors. It's like the Roman baths kind of thing where they don't have fires, but they boil water and then they send water through pipes underneath the floor. And that's sort of the main form of heating, which is good for cleaning because I'll like wash the floors and I'll just turn on the floor heating and it'll all evaporate.
Oh, sweet.
But well, before we get into Arcane, I should probably give an update on some of my projects.
Yeah, go for it.
So the two big projects that I'm trying to focus on right now are obviously the book and the card game. If you've been to my site recently, you know that we are now in art production stage. So what that means is we have the card template done. We've recently contacted an artist to do the iconography work. So this is like the badges and the banners and the icons for things like faction and card type, stuff like that. Equipment, unit, and the other ones. So the art's being done on that. We're looking to get like the actual templates fully done. So the template itself is done. It's just the icons that go on top that's being done now. Once those are done, we're going to reach out to artists to do the actual pictures for it. Andrew, you've seen the template.
Yeah, looking good.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. So that's where we are with the card game. For the book, we're a bit behind the schedule, but I intend to have this draft done either by the end of January or at the beginning of February. Then it's going to go to an editor for editorial. Basically, it's going to get sent to an editor, and they're going to recommend the types of editing that would be best for the book. And I will give an update on which editing processes we're going through at that time. Aside from that, the Cyberpunk game that I said I was going to work on, that I might work on, did not get worked on for various reasons. And although I did say I'm not starting any new projects, I may have accidentally, through no fault of my own, found myself in development of a Pokemon game. So, I don't know where that's going or if it's going anywhere, but it's somehow it keeps getting developed more and more. So, just so everyone's aware of where we are. But we're not here to talk about this, are we, Andrew? We're here to talk about our favorite show, Arcane. Do you remember where we left off?
Yeah, we left off when some events occurred and then things went crazy.
So you don't remember the details?
No, I do. Oh, it was when Vi and Jinx met back up. Then they got attacked.
Yeah. So we ended the second part. Oh, geez, my mic's still We'll just have to work with that. So we left off. The firelights have shown up. We're at the end of Act 2, which I've argued is the last time Jinx and, or I guess at this point I'm still arguing she's Powder Jinx, whereas you're arguing she is fully Jinx at this point. But I'm arguing this is the last time, or I guess the last opportunity anyone could have a happy ending, and it fails. And so now everything after that is going to be the consequences of the actions everyone's taken up to this point. And this is being the third act. This is also my second favorite episode of Arcane, episode 7. I don't know where Andrew sits on this. Or actually, no, it's my third favorite. Episode 3 is my second favorite. Episode 9 is my favorite. And this one's my third favorite. Do you have any particular views on where does this rank for you, Andrew?
Oh, good question. Wait, 7 or 6?
7.
Okay. I like 7. I like 7 a lot, actually. I really like the scene. You know the scene.
The one we probably won't get to today because it's at the end.
Most certainly. Yeah, I think I probably want to say I have till about like maybe 10 my time. Anyways, yeah. In terms of ranking, I don't know where I'd necessarily rank this one. It's up there for sure. But I would say that my top picks would probably be obviously 3. This is probably a cop out. Like 3, 9, and 6. I would say are
The big finales of each act, yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. Also,
6, the one that talks more about Victor. Is that where I think that's where he goes down to see Singed and stuff.
yes.
I like that one. Yeah, I like that stuff. And now I know we talked about some pacing around that, but I like the stuff around Victor. Which actually, no, I think that gets even more. I think this one gets more into that. So I like that stuff as well. Yeah, I think that's what I like about this one. I think it's. I don't remember fully how everything goes.
Yeah, this is.
We already see that.
Episode 7 is like Jace and Victor's relationship start breaking apart. Victor starts. I can't remember if this is the one where Victor gets like the full. He definitely starts the augmentation process, but I think like the big like when he starts running is episode 8.
Oh, okay, that's the one that I'm thinking of.
Right.
Okay, so I guess we'll get to all that then.
Yeah, I like. So the three episodes themselves. I feel like episode 7 feels like this is sort of the beginning of the end, where they're like where everything. We've now had episode 6, which I argue is the last time anyone has any chance at a good ending, and so 7th is we start to see those possibilities fully disappear, and this train wreck that we know is coming is starting to unfold. This is like we've derailed all the tracks, and we're now hearing the train coming. Episode 8 is like we see the train barreling towards us, and then episode 9 is the big crash. That's sort of how I see it, and yeah, and 7 I think hits hard because it's when you hear the train. So episode 6 is sort of the last hope, but you don't sort of realize that while you're watching the show until episode 7. Because I feel like at the end of episode 6, she's gotten kidnapped. And so the sort of impression a viewer might have might be something along the lines of, okay, so now we got to go rescue Vi and get her back to Jinx and then fix everything, which is not going to happen. And episode 7 is sort of that solidifies that because we have that scene on the bridge where this is where we sort of see this is Jinx sort of coming out and Vi's sort of seeing how she's changed at the end of episode 6. But episode 7 is when we have that scene on the bridge. it's like, okay, Jinx is Jinx, and and Vi has to leave her once again, and so there's sort of this realization that there isn't going to be a reaching made, and we also see right because all this stuff happens. Marcus goes down, massive damage on the bridge. We sort of see that we've now set the scene for all these events are now currently spiraling out of control, and there doesn't seem to be anyone who, I guess, like you could theoretically make an argument of some like perfect figure who could come in and Deus Ex and fix everything. Like I'm being a bit facetious when I say that, but like there are paths that exist, but there aren't any paths that any of the characters would take. There's nothing in character anyone can do. So I think episode 7 has a bit of a tonal shift, where episode 6 and everything in Act 2 is about how we need to get Vi and Jinx together so that they can resolve the issue. And then
right, because you want them to get together specifically to like figure things out between each other. That doesn't happen.
Right, and then 7 you hear
makes things worse.
Right, and then 7 you hear the whistle of the train coming, and you're like, okay, we're not resolving this. Well, we need to put your seats in the upright position, get your air masks, and pray to whatever god you worship. The end is nigh. So before we start, 2 things to point out. 1, we now have a comment section up. You can now type into the comment section, and it will appear on stream. We have done it. It doesn't look super great. I have it underneath, and it makes it a bit weird, but we don't get many comments anyway, so it's not a big deal. You'll also notice I forgot I didn't transfer my background over when I came to Korea, so I had to buy a new one, and so I just got the same one. But this one, unlike the previous one, isn't static; it's animated. So for all the increase, I think. That. All right, excellent. Let's get into Arcane.
Oh yeah, this is the beginning of this is like the song, right?
I was going to do a whole joke bit on Andrew. Did we grab the rights? What's going on? This isn't Arcane. But now you've ruined the joke. You joke ruiner.
Wow. That's what I do, Max. I'm like the guy who will like do that thing with jokes where it's like just painfully unfunny. I'm just gonna drag it out, just like I'm doing now. You can't do anything about it.
Fantastic. So what do we think about this opening?
Is it playing?
It was playing for me. Was it not playing for you?
No, it wasn't. Let me make sure I'm in the right one, and I'm just gonna try to like I guess rejoin or whatever. Make sure I'm in the right one.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think my video is a bit choppy. The power of Arcane is too much for my work laptop to handle.
Can you like play it and pause it real quick?
Sure.
Not seeing any changes. It's all good. Like I'm just gonna like use my memory and then like just skim and follow along. It's fine. We don't have to.
Well, if you want, what we could do is you could stream it, or you could play it on your end, and I'll join yours, and you'll handle stopping and pausing, and that might help on the choppiness on my end. On the other hand, the choppiness might help us avoid a DMCA strike or a copyright claim. So you know.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with just skimming, basically.
Okay. Well, I mean, If you want, you could throw up the stream in another. Well, if you want.
Not sure how I'd set that up with your.
No. I mean, you could play our stream, and see where you'll be a bit behind, but you can watch if you want to do that.
Oh, yeah. I think I will do that. Actually, good point.
Okay, then I'm gonna disconnect because I don't want to. I want the least amount of things running on my computer at any given time. Because this has minimal processing power. I'm kind of just working with what I got here, okay?
Unacceptable.
Well, listen, I mean, I'm putting 1,000 a month away, but that's like 2 months in a graphics card. You know, so I gotta be economical and realistic.
Oh, Max, you need to be running like a freaking mainframe out there.
I could try for next time round to go to a PC bon and see how that works out, but
It's a PC bun.
it's an internet, it's a computer cafe.
Oh, okay.
So they have like high-end computers, and you can just download whatever you want on it and use it or whatever. But I don't know what it's. I've never been to one. Maybe I'll try one today, and then I'll report back. I don't know. But so we have this opening. We have this hip hop opening where all these guys are dancing around and doing all this gangsta shit.
Yeah.
What do we think? What do you think, Andrew?
I liked it.
I like the opening too. I thought it was because we don't actually see a whole lot of the firelights. We have them in episode 4, and we see them a bit in episode 6. But really, all we know at this point is that they fight with Silco, and we don't really understand anything beyond that. And I think
it gives us a bit more of a picture of what their vibe is, like what they want to kind of how they view it. It almost seems like this is how we view ourselves.
Right, it's a sort of declaratory music video.
Yeah,
and it's good because in any show you have very little time. This is the one thing. This is what's great about books. You have literally as much time as you want to do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But in shows, especially ones with the fucking level of animation they have, they only have so much budget. And so what I think this this intro does a good job of is relying on sort of archetypes that the viewer would be familiar with as sort of a shorthand to show you to give you a basic idea of who these people are. This is something that anime does all the time. They have tons of visual shorthands that give you ideas of what's happening and whatnot.
Oh, interesting.
And so I think what's great about this is, right, obviously these kids are like the economically disadvantaged, rebellious youth who's trying to upend the system. Right? This is why the song is hip hop and not, in fucking not an opera. Oh, we hate Silco. Right? It'd be a bit out of place. You'd be like, what the heck is this? Right? And they're using very much sort of the sort of, I guess we would call it street aesthetic. So like they're using graffiti, they're using all these they're using boxing when they fight, which is like a typically, how do we say this without getting canceled, Andrew?
You're a racist, Max. How
boxing
dare you say words?
Historically has been a method out of poverty for a certain disenfranchised section of the population. Boom, nailed it.
Nice. Ambiguity.
Like everyone's favorite, Mike Tyson. Boom, canceled.
Like the actually awesome, great fighter who was super skilled. Canceled.
Well, yeah. Well, I think most people's issue with Mike Tyson is the rape conviction.
that too.
Which,
So
I don't know. I didn't look into that case, but Mike Tyson says he's innocent, because of course he does. But it was a while ago, so it's not like they had the same sort of. There's no video recording of it, so it's a bit hard, you know. But he was convicted, so that's more than
convicted.
it's more than most, right? So
Yeah, dang. Okay.
main point, I take no
I
stance.
actually didn't know that.
Right. I mean, I don't want to get into the case here. It's not really relevant. But I'm taking no stances on this because I've not read the court files. But and yeah, the imagery, the firelight, and using the actual like the insect, the firelights, I think is great symbology. We may have talked about this before, but firelights are literally like these tiny, small insects, like these weak little creatures who can't do much on their own. But what's great about the fireflies, which the firelights are based off of, is the firefly is a light in the darkness, right? Which is sort of what the firelights are supposed to represent. We have this darkness, Silco and Piltover oppressing everyone, and we're the light, the hope within the darkness. So I think there's a lot of like great symbology in using something like the firelights, or basing it off the fireflies, right? As well, there's this connection with fireflies. If you see them, they light up in the night and then disappear, which coincides
Oh,
perfectly with Echo and the Firelight's hit and run tactics. They show up, they cause trouble, they dip.
interesting.
Right? So I think there's a
Yeah,
lot.
interesting.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of good aspects where like the choice of using the firefly as a symbol really really meshes very neatly and very well with who the firelights are. And then we
Never
have.
actually realized the connection between them and the symbol. But you mentioned it, that does actually fit really well.
Yeah. And then and of course, once again, big fan of all the colors. We got green and purple, which are great sort of I don't know if they're exactly complementary. I'd have to check my color wheel.
They're not complementary, but they're
They're
I
the
don't know
other
what you
one that's
call
like
it.
the three-way.
I think it's the three-way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Um, but
Well, some of these are analogous. You've got like a yellow green, a green, and like a blue green. And
right,
then when
not
it has the purple, I don't know what that would be.
well. These are the colors of Zon, right? So Zon is
Yeah, yeah,
green.
yeah.
Yeah, and purple obviously relates to the shimmer, which sort of is the entire mission statement, the entire point of existence of the Firelights is to save Zon from Silco or in his organization, which is a bit of a simplifying way to put it, right? They want to build sort of a new society based on the values of people like Benzo and Vander, and sort of end this cycle. Well, I don't know if they're explicitly interested in this point in ending the cycle, but they're trying to build a new and better life. But that puts them in direct conflict with Silco. So
Yeah,
the
but
utilization of green and purple here makes sense. And then, of course, the big one we see, like, it's black and grays, because they're hiding in the shadows. And then we have the bright whites that stand out from the rest of it, because they're meant to represent that light.
I put the rough color scheme in the chat. Funny thing, I opened up the Adobe color wheel, and as soon as I clicked on Triad, that's what popped up, and that's basically the exact one.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like they're artists.
Yeah,
It's almost like they're artists that are familiar with color theory. Who
yeah,
could have
crazy.
seen?
Nuts.
Right, and as well, the music choice is also very good here because it's gangster rap, which is as JXC said on the EFAP of this. That's right. You're not the only one who can cite that cite that show. This is sort of exactly the type of music that we would associate with this group of people. This is sort of the because their struggle is in some ways analogous. They come from a poor sort of I mean it's kind of literally it's literally a ghetto.
Mm.
I mean it's like in the original definition where it's like a neighborhood specifically segregated, right? So and sort of interacting with that dark criminal sort of world. And so it sort of it makes sense, but it's also very what's the words I'm looking for? It's sung, or I guess rapped, from a position of strength. Right? The song's like, I could get you kidnapped. Right? So it has a bit of it has I guess it sort of represents John Graham's favorite subject, the duality of man.
Duality of man.
Everything is about the duality of man, Andrew. The duality man it. But because on one hand they're trying to build this life that explicitly rejects the ideas of Silco and whatnot. But to sort of achieve this peaceful utopia, they're committing acts of violence. Right, and to be fair, in like the first one, they don't kill anyone; they trap them all in crystals, which is okay. But like they have in this video, they have the was it the enforcer that they've hung up and they're beating the shit out of the body. Now it could just be a fake dummy. And
wait,
they could
in the song,
right? Yeah, but this doesn't change, even if they don't kill anyone. This doesn't change the fact that Silco's whole thing is power is given to those who take it, right? And to take it, Silco uses all the tactics in his book. He uses intimidation and violence is like his big things, right? We have the scene where later where he'll talk to Finn and he'll leave him fucking gasping on the floor. He's like, "Know your place, trash." Right? But Silco uses intimidation, but his intimidation works because it's an obvious undercurrent, and underlying is a threat of violence. Right? He intimidates Marcus, but the intimidation is, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to kill your daughter. So the Silco's entire system functions on violence and the threat of violence. And the Firelights explicitly reject that. But the duality of man here, in order to attempt to achieve this perfect utopia, or at least this better life, where you don't have to worry about all your friends being killed or all this violence, they in turn use violence to achieve their objectives and ends, right? They attack the ship, and then when Vi and Jinx reconnect, it's them who break it up by attacking them, beating the shit out of them, and literally, I can get you kidnapped, Vi. So, obviously it's not a one-to-one, but there's sort of this this incongruence of the desire for, I guess, a pacifist state, and using violence to sort of meet that.
So I don't know if this is like a counter or anything, but I'm just looking at the shot of them beating the guy on the string. So they're literally beating a straw man.
Yeah.
He's got like straw on his wrists and his neck and his feet. They're
Sure,
all straw.
I didn't mean to portray it was an actual body. It's probably a dummy. But
Okay.
on the other hand, they had to get that armor from somewhere, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know if it's... It doesn't strike me as incongruent, to be honest. It just strikes me as, like... They're just doing what they got to do, basically. Um,
Well, there's
from like it because it's not necessarily that they want a pacifist state. They just want to, over like they want to prevent Silco's influence, right?
well,
Um,
yes, but the reason they want to prevent Silco's influence is because they don't like the sort of violence he's brought. Right? When Caitlyn talks to them, he says, "This is all the people we've lost and all the people who have joined their community are people who have lost to the shimmer and to the violence."
hmm.
But then Echo, on the other hand, also engages in violence. And when he's presented with the Hex Tech, his great weapon, right? Because remember, Silco developed Shimmer to fight against the weapons of Piltover. Once he gets the Hex Tech that he can use to fight against Silco's Shimmer, his first thought is, great, we can use this to beat Silco. We can weaponize this. And Caitlyn has to talk him out of it.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm not saying these are the same people, but I'm saying there's a lot of there's a lot of Echo, despite being there's a bit of Silco in everyone, and there's a bit of Heimerdinger in everyone, and Echo, despite his rejection of Silco,
Kind of a
cannot,
middle ground.
right?
Lies almost.
Well, this is sort of the duality. On one hand, he is, the hope for the better future, the hope for peace, and a hope for a better life. And on the other hand, he's a gang leader.
But it's very much like a Robin Hood type of thing, right? Like it's like sure you're gonna cause death even if you're at war, right? Um,
I'm not saying
if
it's
you're
bad.
fighting
I'm just
against,
saying there's an interesting dichotomy that's happening.
I
That's
guess,
a
but I mean,
realistic
like,
dichotomy as well.
sure. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure if it is a dichotomy. I mean, I guess it's a dichotomy of if you strip it all the way down to we don't want violence and we commit violence. But in reality, it's we are being essentially oppressed, and we have a regime like a dictatorship. I don't know if it's a dictatorship, but some sort of um, some sort of unjust leadership, and we're committing violence to stop that and to bring forth a more justice kind of situation.
Isn't that
'Cause
Silco's
you might even
whole
say,
argument?
right,
Isn't that
right,
Silco's whole argument?
maybe I don't know. Is it what does Silco
Right?
want? He wants
Piltover has
to.
oppressed us. We have suffered on account of Piltover, right? You've forgotten all the things we suffered in those mines. And we need to enact violence in order to liberate Zon to have a better life for our people.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think that in itself is wrong about what Silco's doing.
I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying any of them are wrong.
No, I understand you're saying that it's like a dichotomy. Maybe I mean
I'm
I
saying
guess
there's some
fundamentally
similarities.
there's
Might be a better word. There's similarities between
okay.
these characters.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. And in a certain sense too, it's kind of like Silco's own medicine coming back at him type of thing. Not quite, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, all right, let's watch a bit more. Oh no, they're trapped in it.
No way they could ever possibly get out of this one. Dude, it's over.
Well, real upset animation's kind of cool.
The is it like the bags on the head?
Sorry, what was your question?
Where are you referring to? The because I'm not seeing it when you're seeing it.
Oh, like when they're looking through the burlap sack and they have the light flashing through like the tiny holes.
Yes.
It was kind of interesting. I like it, but there's an important scene that's happening here, where Caitlyn comes in on her high horse, like, "You lied to me. How could you do this? I trusted you." And Vi's are like, "Oh, really? So you would never lie, Missy? You were up for it and straightforward and honest with me, huh?"
uh,
And obviously she's got like no response. Like, yeah, you got me on that one.
proof that Caitlyn and Vi simply worst.
But
That's not true.
but in some ways this is kind of important because these are sort of the last secrets they have from each other. There isn't anything besides this that they're hiding. So now all like the sort of things are laid out on the table now. We all sort of know why everyone's here and what's happening. There's no game now being played of trying to hide intentions.
Right.
Right? Vi was trying, like, the entire thing has been them, this uneasy trust between them, where they're both kind of hiding their intentions. Right? Vi knows Caitlyn's after Jinx, but she wants to get out and find her. And Caitlyn knows that Vi knows stuff, but her goal is to get out. That's why Vi ditches her at the pleasure house, shall we say. Right? Vi knows that Caitlyn wants to go after Jinx, so she ditches her there and does the investigation on her own. Caitlyn knows about the Hex Tech stuff, but Vi doesn't. So she's like in the fight. She's making sure she knows where it is at all times and grabbing it, because that's what she's after. So the relationship up to this point has had like a level of dishonesty baked into it. Or I guess they both know each other are like lying, so I don't know if it's actually dishonest, because they're aware that there's a game being played and they're both playing it. But now Caitlyn knows Vi's thing, which is Jinx is her sister, and Vi knows Caitlyn's thing, which is she's trying to find this stone. So the dishonesty that has sort of undergirded this distrust they've had for each other, on top of, her being a piltover, a pilty, an upsider, or whatever they're called. We can now, at this point, start on an honest and equal foot, which will then start the building block, or I guess the foundation, for what will go on to be Caitlyn and Vi's sort of relationship in this third of the story. Any thoughts before I play?
Go ahead.
And so now they're going to take her away. And having it here, so we don't actually see it her getting taken away, but like just flashing the lights, sort of I think adds a little to the sort of I guess the scariness of the scene, because at this point, unless you have figured out who Echo is, you have no idea who these people are. I mean, whoever the leader is, whom we don't know at this point, because we have not gotten that far in the story yet, who happens to have the same mask as the mask from Benzo's shop for unexplained reasons. Could be anyone.
Well, it's probably Silco.
You know what? It's Benzo, back from the dead.
It's Benzo.
He worked out a bit. He worked off some of the fat.
He worked off a lot of it.
Yeah. And then I don't think we
became a new man, you might say, completely a new man.
And he went pigmentation altering surgery like Robert Downey Jr. But
wait, Robert Downey Jr. or
Robert Downey Jr. Tropic Thunder. His character he plays a black guy, so he gets like a medical. It basically has a chemical blackface on.
Really?
For almost the entire movie. Right, that's the joke of the character. He's like this out of touch artist who takes himself way too seriously, and so he gets chosen for a black role, and so he puts on essentially blackface and pretends to be black for the entire thing. It's very silly. Very good movie. We should watch it sometime. But yeah, and you may remember.
So his character, he doesn't play a black guy. playing a character who plays a black guy.
Yes.
That's amazing.
There's
That's
a great
funny.
line towards the end of the movie where someone like asks, he's like, "Who are you?" "I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude."
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a great movie. We'll watch it sometime. But Batman over here. I maintained. I think he's from episode 4 when they're up on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's him.
And
And
disguised himself.
and so I think it's a great starting with him as opposed to Echo, because we see him and we sort of recognize him,
Yeah.
and we might not be sure from where, because we've seen like him in the mask, but you're like, oh, his face kind of looks familiar too, but I don't remember because it's just that one shot in episode 3, which sort of primes the viewer for what's going to happen next, where Echo reveals himself, right? So now we're in the headspace of
Interesting.
something about this seems familiar, and then Echo appears, and I'm like, okay, now this is making sense.
Yeah. Like almost like it's like a primer for a reveal, and that's interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of the in Disney movies. I forget. I think they call it the musical undercurrent. But if you ever watch a Disney movie, you'll notice that they never launch into song at any point in any Disney movie.
Oh. Really?
They'll have
They'll-
like Sebastian the Little Mermaid. He'll be talking to Ariel, and suddenly in the background here, dun, 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 dun. It's like, I don't know why you would go up there as the music starts playing. And he has this conversation with
Oh.
her as the music starts to build, and then boom, they're in song.
That's right. So it's like I guess it's just a matter of like building up to something.
Yeah, this sort of builds. This helps build up to the reveal.
Gotcha.
And you may not notice it, but your brain did.
Oh snap!
Oh my god! It's Echo! Who could have seen this development?
That's not Echo. Echo's way smaller than that.
Well, that's right, he's like
He
8 or
doesn't have
something.
bushy hair. Yeah.
I
He's not.
do.
He's not like 20.
So there's a change from the game to the film. With all of them have character design changes. Echo's big difference is his hair. He no longer has a giant mohawk.
Right. Right.
I think the dreads are probably better. They make more sense for the sort of cultural archetypes they're trying to display here. Whereas Mohawk may have made sense in like the game because he was like a rebellious punk kid. Now he's like he's sort of in a new sort of archetype in the show. So I think it makes sense. It also, I think probably aesthetically it looks a bit better. Though you do notice he has it all on top and the sides are shaved, which are kind of, I think, an illusion. But the other big
Illusion or allusion?
thing, illusion. Well, I guess kind of both. It gives sort of the illusion. It's a hairstyle that's not a mohawk, but clearly has similarities to the mohawk. So it's not
Oh, I see.
entirely
Okay.
right. They didn't have him like long dreads going down the sides or something.
Sure.
But also, one of the big things we notice is once again, look at his face. It's a giant hourglass, reinforcing that that connection with time. Right? Obviously, Echo has. Well, I don't believe Echo at this point has built the Z drive. I guess that fight is up to interpretation, but I don't think at this point. I am convinced he does not have time travel abilities. Otherwise,
think
would have
he
saved
does.
that girl at the beginning, right? But
Yeah.
obviously, I think at this point, giving him the Z drive would just make him too powerful. Like he would just fucking raffle stomp and fucking baby shake.
I'm not sure what its powers are in the game.
Well, this
I
is
mean,
why, like,
just having.
we'll talk about it when we get to the scene. But the fight between Jinx and Echo is essentially them having him use his ultimate without having him use his ultimate. Because all of his powers are time-based. So his ultimate is he can rewind time back to a... He can rewind himself. He can go back in time, essentially. So gameplay-wise, what happens is he hits it, and then everyone reverts to where they were like 5 seconds before. But the big difference is Echo keeps whatever health he's at. So if he's getting beat up, he'll rewind time and he'll still be beat up when he rewinds.
Oh, shit.
And that's sort of the drawback of his ability. Whereas everyone else, I think, goes back to their previous state. But yeah, it's obviously it would be too overpowered at this point for him to have it. So they sort of give it to him without giving it to him, which is sort of done through the replay. Well, we'll talk about it when we get there. But what's important here is that they're continuing to allude to he's related to time somehow. And they're doing it in enough subtle ways where it's not like hitting you over the head. This guy is time guy. This guy is time guy, right? It's pretty subtle enough, like he's checking his watch. He says we have to be out here by a certain amount of time. Right? These are all things that would be that link him to this sort of concept of time control, but are not like not direct. That wouldn't be out of place in any other scene or show. And now we have titles. Oh boy, the titile. Let's skip ahead. And so now we have this sort of conversation between Echo and Vi. Half conversation, half interrogation. Right. Do you remember the conversation, or do you want me to just quickly summarize what's happening?
Mind summarizing it real quick?
Okay, he comes in, he's like, "You look good for a dead girl." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm getting that a lot." And Echo asks him, "Are you working for Silco?" Which is kind of a heartbreaking question if you think about it. Because, on one hand, he absolutely hates Silco because he murdered Benzo and all the other people he cares about. And Vi obviously hates Silco for the same reason. So Vi has this terrible, like, what the fuck are you talking about, you crazy person? Right? She has this, like, fuck, no, what? Because she's thinking, like, what a dumb fucking question. Obviously, I hate Silco. But, right, Echo's looking at this. He doesn't know where Vi's been. He doesn't know what's up with her. All he knows is the only surviving member of that group of 4 is Jinx, and he knows who she sided with.
Yeah.
Which is heartbreaking in its own way, because this whole time, Echo's got to be thinking, why is she back? And that's why they're watching him, because he doesn't know if he can trust them, which is sort of a... Like, these are the people you grew up with, your childhood friends, and now you no longer have, like, this level of trust that once existed. Because Jinx decided to go be crazy with Silco. But also, it sort of alludes to... Because Echo's almost certainly attempted to bring Jinx on side multiple times in the past. And has clearly not worked. Right, to the point where...
Like, I want to see that. Like, I want to see how that would play out. Because, you know, we all we see is, like, kind of the conclusion of that, I guess. The culmination of that.
It would be... I mean, I think we kind of know it happens, though. It would be kind of absurd if at no point Echo ever tried to get... Like, if the ship was the first time he and Jinx met, he'd be like, "Yo, Jinx, it's me. Why don't you..." Like, he's obviously tried this. even though we're not privy to it, which I think it was a good decision because I think we should see these chapters sort of from Vi's perspective because her character actions make a bit more sense in that context. Obviously it's failed to the point where like he never thinks to go up and say, "Hey Vi, it's me, your friend Echo. What's the dealio with what you're doing?" Right? Just never does that. He waits for an opportunity where he now has her chained up in our room. He has for him to have this conversation, which is sort of he's only having this conversation from a position where he knows that he and his men are safe and can have this conversation without some crazy bitch shooting them, you know?
Yeah.
Because I can imagine, like, if he tried to, he probably may have gone and had a conversation with Jinx, and Jinx just shot at them. So it's only when he's in this position of power can he sort of take that sort of, like, the amount of risk he is willing to take in conversing with this person who not only is his friend, but someone he looked up to, sort of demonstrates this sort of massive character shift that's happened in him.
Yeah.
And right, he pulls out, I thought you were dead. And then you come back with a pilty, which is sort of, I don't know why this isn't, thank you. With a pilty and give her a tour of the lanes, which obviously, he doesn't like Piltovers. He's part of the Zaw Knights, yada, yada, yada. But the other way to look at this is, giant explosion at the factory. I thought you were dead, Jinx. Now you're walking around with Silco, my enemy. I thought you were dead, Vi. Then you come back, walk around with a Piltover, my enemy. Right, he's probably drawing some parallels there. Which is probably why it's like the second thing he brings up. Like, why are you with a Pilty, our enemy? The people we go and rob for a living, who oppress us. Is this what's happening? Jinx joins Silco, you join the Piltovers. Both of you want to oppress us now? All I want is my friends to stop dying. Right, you can sort of see how in some ways this might be a bit of like I could imagine in his head he's having like flashbacks to finding out Jinx was with Silco.
Yeah, for sure, because he doesn't freaking know what she's been up to.
Right. And then there's
everything's changed like crazy for them all.
Everything's going to change. And then she's like, "So what do? You just come out swinging?" And Echo's like, "Yes. That's what you do. You'd come out swinging. That's what I'm doing." Obviously.
Yep. That is what she would do, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. That's literally one of the only things she's done. That's her go-to move.
That's literally her only thing, is go out swinging.
And she's literally the definition of, if all you have is a hammer.
Well, that's Jace, but yeah. Yeah.
Obviously metaphorically, not literally. But, they have this... And that sort of... Right? And that sort of triggers the next section of the conversation, where he's like, obviously I learned this from you. And that sort of shifts the dialogue to, what are you doing to where we have been? And then Vi begins to reminisce. I remember when we did this, and I hosed you down when you got covered in grease. And this reminiscing sort of builds together for the eventual big hug and reunification. And then, of course, how long have you had those off? This is a security concern. And now we're on the part you probably like the best. Singed and Victor.
Ah, yes. Interesting. I just like Victor's whole progression, like what kind of leads him there.
Yeah, and once again we have what's it, Rio in the tank,
Yeah.
and we have there's this sort of this horrific because this whole scene is going to be about Singed trying to convince Victor to essentially use Shimmer to change his sort of morphology in order to accept the Hex Tech treatment.
Hmm.
And Victor, at the beginning of the scene, he's shown up for help, but I don't think he's like super 100% committed. And part of how I think that, or why I think that, is this conversation he's having with Singed. His back to him is his Victor has his back to Singed for the first beginning of the conversation, for most of the conversation, and instead he's looking at Rio, who seems to be weirdly mutated by this Shimmer and living this horrific, rotting state, barely alive. And
It's
so,
real convincing imagery, if that's what you're kind of associating
right,
he's talking about with, right?
and what's the first line? I'd like to see this Hex Tech. That would be difficult to arrange, right? He's shown up because he's desperate, but he's at this point he's not ready to quite give in yet. He's still having this internal struggle, and while the sort of the Heimerdinger versus the Singed, and the Singed side is winning, but it hasn't won yet.
Hmm.
And so, what's great about this scene is you see that sort of tug between the two, because right now he's shown up, but obviously he's very conflicted about doing so, and he's not sure he wants to commit to this path. So, and now that Singed is sort of offering this solution, he's turning back, and now he's looking at Singed. Right, and we there's this continual back and forth, right? Singed says, "Can I come?" He's looking away. Singed says, "Oh, I may have a solution." He turns to Singed. Singed says, "This Shimmer." Victor recoils a bit. Singed goes on to explain, and as he eventually, Victor will sort of draw closer, right? Singed is now trying to convince him, and he's moving closer, closing that distance between them, which is sort of a visual representation of him winning Victor over with his argumentation. He's like, "You're not here for that. You're here for this. I know what's going on. This can help you. Don't you want help?" And he's coming closer, lessening the distance physically and metaphorically between these two characters.
Yeah. Is it a matter of like him like manipulating Victor for some of his own? Like, is he trying to? Do you think he's trying to achieve something of his own, or is he just like this is just what he believes should happen, or whatever he views well-being to be?
Well, it's so Singed in the game. I like to say Singed is sort of a Mangala character.
Yeah.
Singed, he's the Crumbopulous Michael. I just love science. And so there's probably two motivations. One, this is scientific development and research. If he does science, if Victor taking this Shimmer and testing it means more development, more science, that's more good.
More science.
I think that's Singed's sort of primary motivation. But on the other hand, he does like Victor, right? He sees a lot of himself in Victor. This is why, right, first thing he says is that we can be loners together. And now he's sort of playing on that idea again when he comes and says, "I know the look of a doomed man." Where he's saying, "I understand you. I'm the only one who understands you." And that's why he's made this walk forward. It's like, "You're not here to talk about this. You're here to talk about this. Because you're doomed. I know. I can see what's happening here. I am the only person who really understands you." And this plays well with Jace, because as Jace is drifting further away from Victor, Victor feels like Jace understands him less. And this is why that scene on the bridge is so important, when he says the Zonites are dangerous, and he says, I'm from Zon. Victor feels like Jace doesn't really understand him anymore. Whereas at the beginning, in the first act, they were doing all the science together, and they were, like, in sync each step of the way, whereas now they've drifted apart. Jace has become more of a politician, and they're having these arguments over what the right thing to do is. Right? Jace is saying, well, we should delay all of our stuff, and Victor's saying, well, people are dying, like me, we need to help them. And so as they sort of drift apart, once again, Victor has this sort of sense of isolation and loneliness that Singed is sort of, I don't know if he's, like, noticing it consciously. Like, I think Silco notices things consciously and then tailors his arguments to suit that person. Where I think Singed is having, like, a genuine human conversation with him. Where Singed is saying, I know what you're going through. I understand it. Here's what you should do. And there's probably a bit of self-serving there. Because no one's ever, like, fully aware of all the reasons that they're arguing something, right? The rider and the elephant. I think Singed wants more experimentation. But I think he cares about Victor as well. And I think both of those things in this instance are aligned together. And so this is why he's being a bit pushy with it. And having he's trying to make this genuine human connection where he's like, I understand what you're going through. I've seen this before. I might have even experienced it before. Look at me, I'm all fucked up in my face. I know the look of a doomed man. Here is something I think will help. And now we sort of get this outline of his... Right, and this is where we sort of get the outlook of his view. Right, and so he's now talking about... These are the sacrifices we make for progress, which is fully in line with sort of the Mangala sort of view of his worldview. Right? No one's going to understand. We're going to do horrible things, like how when he killed Rio, and Victor, or he didn't kill him, but put him in this like perpetual torment, and Victor didn't understand, but now he does, or at least claims to. People aren't going to understand, and you have to be aware of that. He's giving him essentially advice from teacher to student. And Victor's getting pulled in by this, but his like main bulwark resistance is going to be Jace will understand. And Cinch is going to say, are you sure? I thought, that was what parted ways with me and Heimerdinger. So I'm not so sure Jace can understand you. And Victor's like, no, I'm convinced he can. And so when he goes to the bridge and Jace demonstrates he doesn't really understand, or at least Victor interprets his statement as he can't relate to or understand Victor. That sort of collapses that bulwark against Singe's influence, so to speak. Any thoughts you want to add?
No, I think that sums it up pretty well. You want to run with it for like 5 minutes or so? I'm going to just grab some food real quick.
Sure.
Right. Okay, thanks. Thank you. I'll be right back.
All right. I'm going to turn the volume down for this. So now we have Jace in his forge, working hard. And listen. Obviously, this is some fan service for the whammon, and I'm not going to complain. We got tons of great scenes with Mel, and some of the other ladies. So equal fan service. I'm fine with that. And so I think this scene does a little bit. It sort of sets up, it gives you an update on where everyone is, right? Jace is now sort of de facto head. Mel, people are looking for him. It sort of gives you a quick view at what the aftermath of the firing of Heimerdinger is. We also see things like he's forging, but as we noticed when we came in, he has the explosive of or Jinx's explosive there. So this is sort of seems like one of those moments where I'm going to pause it there, where Jace is obviously having this he's stressed out, like 21 Pilots. And so what do you do when you have all this stressed out nervous energy? You go work out, which is essentially what he's doing, right? He's pulling down the bars and firing things up, getting hot and sweaty, working out, and getting all that excess nervousness sort of taken off, which may be one of the reasons why Mel is sort of coming in here to try and cheer him up, because she's smart. She probably realizes that he's going through a bit of a tough time right now, and most importantly, she has sort of a strategic and tactical mind, and one that's minded politically because of the time she spent in Noxus with her mom. Well, she's probably aware, because she makes that line like, everyone's keeping track of where you go, everyone's watching you. And so it may be the case. She's a bit nervous about how this sort of comes off to people, where he's just became head of the council, and now he's going to go forge stuff for no real reason, it seems. Now, of course, we know he's building the hammer, but, no one really knows what he's doing or how his hex tech shit works. So there may be an element of appearances that she's worried about, but she also, because it seems like at this point, she does genuinely care about Chase. So it may be the case that she understands that he's going through something, and so she's showing up to help because she likes him. And so she goes on to talk about her family and her sort of interactions and attempt to relate them to Jace. Because Jace says, Heimerdinger is like a father to me. Which he is now betrayed, whereas Mel feels similarly. Well, she may. She's upset that she was cast out, so it may be the case that she feels betrayed. And so she can be like, well, I still love my family, even though they betrayed me. So, Heimerdinger probably still likes you, which isn't great. But obviously she is attempting to comfort him. But it makes me wonder, when she says stuff like Heimerdinger will understand eventually. Because we know that's not true for her. She doesn't understand why her mom kicked her out. Because we have that scene in episode 8 where she has this badge where she's like, why did you do it? I don't understand. Why? Or whatever. So I wonder how much of this is her saying her honest feelings and how much of it is sort of wishful thinking, right? She doesn't really understand why her mom did what she did. But obviously, humans sort of want closure on things. So I wonder it may be how much of this character is hoping one day she'll have the sort of closure she needs. Because she's obviously still, right? I'm the richest Piltover, but the poorest Medarda. She is very much still tied to that family with unresolved issues. Whereas what she's saying is incongruent with her reality. So there's this interesting sort of, you're saying this, but do you really mean this? Or is this mostly wishful thinking on your part? And then that could sort of tie in why this is your time now. Doesn't really make sense in this sort of context where it's not really her mom's time. She sees it as her time. So this sort of incongruence in her explanation or how she's this incongruence between, she's mixing up her metaphors, I guess would be the way to put that. She has the situation where she's trying to compare the two, but she's coming up with, she's comparing different aspects of it in a way that's not congruent and doesn't really make sense, which I think might symbolize her sort of internal struggle and tumultuousness, where she's still struggling to deal with what happened to her. And so when she says this, it comes off, if you really analyze it, a little bit incoherent. But only if you look really closely. Because obviously, in the analogy, she's the one who was betrayed. But it's also her time, not the betrayer's time. Unless she's going to argue that she's the one who betrayed her family, which is not... We have not gotten any indication that that's what she believes. She does say she fell short of Madara's standards. So, I don't think that's enough for, like... She didn't make the choice to leave. She was forced to leave. So I don't think that's what she means. Or if that is, that might be just another way in which her sort of viewpoint is a bit incongruent with itself.
I've returned.
Good timing. We're talking about Mel. And Mel...
Okay.
Right, and I'm sort of talking my way through it. But so Mel comes in and says... And so Jay says this, I betrayed him. He was like a father to me. Mel says, I still love my family, even after they cast me out. Heimerdinger will understand in time. It's your turn. And what I'm sort of talking through right now is that argument seems is a sort of inconsistent analogy. Right, on one hand, she is the betrayer, or not the betrayer, the betrayee, the betrayed, because her family cast her out. She didn't betray and leave her family. She was thrown out.
Oh, yeah.
So on one hand, the analogy is, Heimerdinger will get over it and understand in time, right? I was in Heimerdinger's position. I still love my family. He still cares about you. He'll understand in time. Now, the first problem is she doesn't understand why she was kicked out because she demands her mom tells her in episode 8. So I think that might be a bit of wishful thinking on her part. But then she has the part where she's done. It's your time now. Whereas that's a bit inconsistent with her analogy of being kicked out of her family, where in that case she would be the Heimerdinger and her mom would be Jace.
Yeah.
But obviously she thinks it's her time to rise, not her mom's.
Yeah.
So the analogy is
like...
right. So the analogy I'm saying is inconsistent and may point to her inability to understand or deal with what happened to her getting kicked out of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts?
It's interesting. I think there's a real... I think when you have a character who is able to state something that, like, comes off intelligent to other characters, but also is actually kind of something that doesn't end up actually holding up, I think that's kind of, like, your moment to, like, really get into, like, to really shine on, like, the show don't tell, like the sort of subtext.
Right.
Tell you a lot more about the character, and I think it's really cool that came out.
Yeah. And then we also talked a bit about Jace seems a bit upset and a bit nervous. I don't know if nervous is the right, but he's obviously upset about what happened, and so he has a bunch of pent-up energy. So what do you do when you have all this pent-up energy? You go work out.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'll cap that off by saying there is sort of the dialogue that's happening, but what's great about the direction in Arcane is the individual actions in the physical actions the characters take, like with Victor and Silco, and now Jason the Forge, and now Medarda, Mel, coming up and then comforting him and then literally hugging him. We have this sort of symmetry between the what is being said and what is being done. If you get what I am saying.
I think so.
All right. And then at the end, she's pulling them back with, we can do what we dreamed. Remember the dream. Don't let your memes be dreams.
No, who else said something about remember the dream? Silco.
That's the real twist. Everyone's Silco.
Everyone is Silco. He's got guys everywhere.
But it seems to have worked. Mel has brought him on side. She makes a funny joke about his losing his nuts. And now we cut to Savika. And obviously, we're building up the tension. I think this is the scene where he goes to, or the scene is coming up this episode where he goes to the Barrens. But we have
some really, really cool stuff, the Baron stuff.
Yeah, so Savika's like, everything's shit now. You've made everything shit. It's all shit and everyone's mad about it. And Silco's like, but you see, it was my plan to make everything shit. Which is not the greatest. But what Silco wants to do here is, Savika's like, everything's going poorly, and his sort of response is, don't worry, it's all under control. When we know very specifically it is not under control.
Yeah. Was it under control when he was freaking like beating the guy up and like kicking the sign and whatever?
Silco is rapidly losing control of everything. And this is why when he goes to the Barrens, they say, what's your plan? And he says, Jinx will deal with it. He has given no orders to Jinx, and he has no idea whether Jinx will follow any of his orders.
Interesting.
But he's out of cards. Everything's falling apart. And so he's got to sort of bluff his way through some stuff.
He doesn't even freaking know where Jinx is right now.
Right. So right now he's very, very clearly losing control. And this may be why he's sort of focusing on, instead of like old Silco, like Silco a few days ago, he might have come up with some sort of plan to deal with it in the meantime. But he's not doing that. He's trying to portray control. He wants to demonstrate to everyone that he is in control, specifically because he's not. Right, and so that may have to do with this sort of shift in tone a little bit. He probably is saying the things he's saying, and he's having more of a focus on trying to convince everyone he's in control, specifically because he's not in control. Whereas if he had more control, he would probably be trying to figure out how to sort of smooth things over. Right? Because remember, he originally doesn't want to go see the Barrens. Savika's going to say you should go, and he's like, I don't want to. Not quite in that line, but
it's interesting. So he's hesitant, and yet he's able to sort of construct this whole like way to kind of show his confidence and like authority and control and stuff. I guess we'll talk about that when we actually get to that scene.
Well, it's sort of what I like about it is Silco finds himself in a very bad position, and he has to figure out how to get out of it. And so what's Silco's method to resolve all of his problems? It's violence. So what does he do? He comes in, hurts all the Chem Barons, chokes them out, nearly kills one of them. He's like, remember your place, trash. that's how Silco resolves issues, through violence. He is the Vi of Vander's generation. Except his violence is a bit different. But that's his hammer. And once again, even in the scene, and this is why, like, because we've talked about the background a fair bit, he's going to light up a cigarette, take one puff, and immediately put it out. Which I think is meant to be sort of, he doesn't really know what he's doing at any given moment. He's sort of scrambled a bit. But the ashtray he puts it out in is the one all marked up by Jinx. Which kind of, like, we're having this conversation about this separate thing. This important thing to is, like, your empire is crumbling around you. But that's not really what Silco cares about right now. He cares about Jinx. That's all he cares about. Fuck the Chem Barons. Fuck the state. Where's my daughter? And eventually, in this conversation, Silco's just going to tell her to shut the fuck up. I'm going to go find Jinx. I can't deal with this. I'm going to find Jinx. And this is when Savika has to give him this sort of heartfelt advice. Because Silco can't concentrate on anything else while Jinx is gone. There's sort of a parallel there. Victor has sort of this pent-up energy from this thing he did, and Silco now has this pent-up nervous energy, and so he's going to go out and look for Jinx to sort of try and get rid of it. And so Savika's solution here is she's got to calm Silco down. She's like, listen, Silco, booby baby, you don't gotta worry about this. She's a woman, I'm a woman, I know what's going on, she'll be back, it's okay. And I think to be fair to Silco, he has enough trust in Savika to sort of to accept the advice. And once he's accepted the advice, then we start seeing him putting some plans into motion to do a plan in motion to deal with the Chem Barons and deal with everything else. Which, the Chem Baron thing works, but ultimately, at the end of the episode, the bridge will not.
Yep. The bridge. Well, I guess we'll find out. I forget if he orchestrated the bridge. Yes, he did, because he's the one that oversees Marcus. Okay.
Yeah, he ordered the Marcus to be at the bridge, but he's not at the bridge until later. Oh, and what do we have here? This is a bit of foreshadowing. We have firelights gathered around Jinx's blood. Sort of this is foreshadowing both Jinx is going to become very injured with this sort of is setting up for the bridge, right? Because Jinx is going to show up with the firelights, which are her bombs. And so we have this sort of imagery here of fireflights in the blood. As well, Jinx is going to become injured even more so at the end of the bridge.
Interesting. So, are those things strictly associated with Jinx, or do the firelight? Because I thought the firelights have those. Does it imply that she's spying on them?
No.
Are the firelights ones like the real? I forgot if they're mechanical or if they're like real.
Okay, so the firelights are fireflies, right? They're just insects that exist in the world. The firelights,
and those are the ones that they have in their little
right. The
tree,
firelights,
right?
the organization has adopted that as their moniker or their.
Yeah, I just mean, but she has the little robot ones, right?
Right. She has the robot ones that she. So how she got these, right? I've been pointing this as we watched. She went to Piltover. In Piltover, someone invented a robot firelight or butterfly of some kind.
Okay.
She took one when she was in Piltover, and throughout the course of the season has been working on it to build her own thing. If you look at, if we go back, and if you look at the table, as we come in here, you're going to see the mechanics on her table. It was there when Silco went and visited her. Remember, after she sold the Hex Tech? So every time she's in here, we see her working on it on the table, which is a great way to sort of, in the background, have this development. and a foreshadow because you won't notice it, but you'll subconsciously notice it. See, there's the wings, there's the butterflies. So she's been working on this whole time, and then it's going to get revealed for the big fight on the bridge. But yeah, once again, working on it in the back, working there. We can see her working on it. It's great. It's having this sort of undercurrent where she's working on it the entire time, and it doesn't just come out of nowhere. Because we can see she's been working on it, and when it hits, you can be like, oh, okay, I remember her working on something like that. This makes sense. But now we get some, we see Jinx's rapidly declining mental state. And once again, if we go back, you'll notice the mirror has what is probably a bullet hole in it. But as I'm trying to find it, it's a bit difficult. She's having her meltdown. And wait a second, I want to try and... Oh, God damn it, I can't get to it. But as Jinx is having her meltdown of how she has lost her sister, like Silco has lost Jinx, she looks into the mirror, and the mirror, the bullet hole, which is black, covers up one of her eyes. So she sort of has this visual imagery associating her with Silco, and they're kind of going through the same sort of thing right now. Silco has lost, to him, his family member, who he's desperately trying to find. Jinx has lost her sister, who she's desperately trying to find. And they both have this sort of, this unhealthy, dependent attachment to the other. So once again, we're getting this sort of, this parallel between Silco and Jinx. That's being demonstrated in how they're acting, but about how they're being visually represented. Also, once again, we see the butterfly thing in the side. Thoughts, Andrew?
I didn't really connect it to Silco. Interesting. Would you say that it's... Okay, so Silco is looking for her, while she is looking for Vi. Like, not necessarily looking, but being lost.
Yeah, they're trying to bring back a family member who they have a bit of an unhealthy attachment on. And they're going to do it through means of extreme violence.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the stream now, I don't know if it'll be now for you, but you can see the scene I'm talking about where you can see her, she has like one black eye. That's sort of giving this visual parallel to Silco.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right, cool. So, and while this is all happening, Jinx is having this sort of mental breakdown. She was there for me, not that. She doesn't know what to believe, who to believe. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. It's all confuzzled in her mind. And meanwhile, she's having the sort of realities breaking around her. And those intrusive negative thoughts are coming in like, no, she's not here for you. She's here for that Piltover lady. That's all she cares about. Which is going to lead to what her the ultimate conclusion is. Well, if she loves me more than Caitlyn, she'd be willing to kill Caitlyn for me. Which, it certainly gets you from point A to point B, but real life might be a bit more nuanced. But this is sort of the beginning of Devil Caitlyn, the evil. There's also a bit more of a subtle point, but as she thinks about Caitlyn, as she has to go through this painful, like, fixing of her wounds, right? So on sort of a subconscious level, she's sort of associating Caitlyn with pain. Because this reparative, I don't know if it'd be surgery, it's suturing, I guess. Right? She's saying, Caitlyn out, Caitlyn out, Caitlyn out. So she's connecting those neurons of Caitlyn and Pain.
Hmm. Okay, let me see that. Oh, okay, yeah.
This was also a fun fact: the basis for gay conversion therapy. That's not relevant to anything, but it was the idea. They would they would show a gay person like a gay image, and then they'd like electrocute them, and they just do this a bunch. So you would associate sort of a male interactions with pain. That was sort of the idea behind a lot of the early gay conversion therapies. Not really relevant to anything, but just thought it was interesting. I'm saying my psychological analysis is theoretically sound.
I think you're right, Max.
Thank you. And the music's good too here, right? You sort of have this string that's growing a bit faster, and then boom, which serves to build the tension as you sort of sonically communicating what Jinx is thinking. And then we have the Firelight home base. Isn't it so beautiful? Also, notice, I kind of just noticed this now, but there's the design looks kind of like an hourglass. Like if you look on, let me go back 10. If you look at the door, there's the symbol. Let me go ahead a little bit. Right, so the symbol is sort of an hourglass. If you see on the round door by the tree, it's an hourglass. But the left to right, up, down, left, right, diagonal, is less pronounced than the rest of the image, giving it the indication that it's like making it look more like a Z or Z, which is, of course, how Echo controls time through the Z drive.
Interesting.
So it's a great logo because it's a Z, but it kind of looks like an hourglass. Every time I rewatch, notice something new.
Amazing, actually. It's pretty cool how they have all these details and stuff. I'm just trying to find it on my end where that is. What shot is that? Where the door is?
If you, it should be on
Is it
this.
right when he's opening it, or is it?
No, it's right when Vi. It's right. They're showing the scene of the tree.
Let me see if I can get onto the stream real quick and see what you have on the screen. Better.
I was going to get Snip, but I don't know if this might be too much for my computer to handle at this point.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, it's got this cool, right, and it's sort of the eluding, and this might come in the future. I'm not sure what Heimerdinger and Echo are working on at the end, but that might be the Z drive. Who knows?
Oh,
But yeah,
interesting.
we have the hourglass with the Z, and then center stage at the bottom of the tree we have a clock. So yeah, there's tons of like stuff built into the image that you won't necessarily notice, but is relevant, and it gives something for fans to catch, because you always want to like it's stuff to throw out to the fans, but also it works for later in the story. They're setting stuff up for later. Anyway, let's continue.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I see the hourglass and I see the clock.
Ah. It's I mean it's a cool set, right?
Hmm. And also, interestingly, I don't know that we've seen a whole lot of trees in Piltover. I mean, not that we haven't, but like the buildings were a lot more prominent than like the foliage. And I don't remember a specific thing. Like, yeah, there's like trees in that area. Um, they have like town squares, towers, buildings, chambers. Right? Like, so it's unique for Zon. It's also almost like unique for like the entire, like for both cities, right?
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting point. Because Piltover, you're right. Now that I think about it, I can't think of a single tree I've seen in Piltover. And that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so it's almost like a bastion compared to like both places, I guess.
Yeah, because and that might tie in because Echo represents sort of a new way forward, or is supposed to, one where Zahn and Piltover can work together as he works together with Caitlyn, and can have a new life where everyone can grow and be happy. Whereas Piltover sort of, I think they all sort of have a dream, right? Like, there's the American dream, and then there's the Piltover dream, and there's the Zaunite dream, and there's sort of Echo's dream, right? And the Piltover dream is sort of this idea of scientific progress, to come and be the next great inventor, and to build new technology, and become this world-renowned inventor, right? Whereas the Zon dream is sort of to build, to crawl out of poverty. But, well, actually, Zon doesn't have one dream, right? That's the whole issue. They have multiple competing dreams. They have Evander's dream, which was like the secret clubhouse, the secret family clubhouse. Whereas Silco's dream was Zon. And many of the people in Zon have that Zon dream, this independent nation where there's no longer a boot on your neck. Whereas Echo's dream is the only dream that isn't like a big grandiose dream. His dream is to build a life for himself where he can, and his friends, I guess, where everyone can sort of grow and live and be happy. And so that may be why he is the only one who has the sort of association with life itself, because his dream is the only one that's legit, that is specifically focused on life, right? Because the symbols are like the tree and the fire lights and all this, whereas everyone else is sort of engaged as sort of these sort of meta narrative concepts as sort of dreams. He is sort of concerned with the individual. At least that's what I'm positing at this moment. Maybe we'll change later. But no, it was a interesting catch. I didn't see that.
I didn't realize that until this.
Yeah, every time you watch something new, you learn.
There you go.
But now we get to sort of the central arguments between Echo and Vi. Because Vi wants to go save Jinx. And Echo's like, is sitting there like, bitch, I tried that. It doesn't work. And this is my big problem with, well, I say problem. This is why Vi is never going to be able to reach Powder or Jinx. Because Vi's whole argument is, Powder's in there. I can reach her. I can bring the old Powder back. Silco's brainwashed her. And I need to free her. And Echo's like, no, that's not what's happening. She wants to work with Silco. I don't know how she can make this more clear to you.
Yeah.
She likes her job. It's got great benefits. They have 401k matching and dental. Stop.
Man, you should see the flippin' mental health benefits they provide.
Yeah, they'll dunk you in the water.
Great access to your, safe injection sites.
Accommodations with great air circulation. But yeah, Echo obviously is interacting with Jinx as she is because he's had to and he's known her for all these years. Whereas Vi, even now, is still interacting with Powder she thinks exists, but no longer exists.
And Echo's known her for longer than Vi has
Uh,
at this point.
well, if you're right, if you're not including while she was in prison, right? If we're talking about time they've actually interacted. That's probably correct. But, but yeah, the issue, and this is what's going to sink her chances of getting Jinx on board in the last episode, which we'll talk about then. But Vi, right? What Vi is attempting to do here is she wants her sister back. She wants Powder back, and she's willing to fight to get Powder back. Which I will point out again. I do not believe Powder exists anymore. I think it's pretty clear Powder doesn't exist anymore. But so ultimately, this desire to get Powder back is doomed to failure. And Echo understands that. He's saying Powder doesn't. This isn't the same person you knew. This is a new. She's changed. She's different now. And Vi is not really able at any point in this series to meet Jinx where she's at, which is what ultimately will lead to the events in episode 9. But they're having this argument, and you know, I'm saying Vi's not going to work, but it makes sense why Vi thinks the way she does, right? This isn't like an out of character or a dumb thing to do or think. This is perfectly in line with who these characters are, especially when Vi hasn't. Right, the most violence she's really seen from Jinx at this point is when they were attacked by the firelights, and Jinx seems to be enjoying, going around fighting people. She hasn't seen all the people like Jinx has been killing along the way and all the horrible shit she's done. And so this is why Echo has to bring her to the wall. Right, and there's a line, right? She's talking about, I can reach my sister. You can't. I know my sister. This is what Echo's trying to tell you. You don't know your sister. This is the whole problem. This is someone who you, as Goya would say, somebody that I used to know. Vi doesn't really know who her sister is at this point. She's met her like once for like 2 minutes.
Yep.
And while she knew Powder, she doesn't really know Jinx. Or as I would argue, this amalgamation Powder Jinx, as she is not fully transformed yet.
Amalgamation.
And so
Indeed.
Echo takes her to the wall to try and show her the gulf of the difference between who she was and who she is, and how much Vi doesn't know. Right? So, like, and what I like about this scene is obviously we have the girl that Jinx kills at the beginning here, on the right under Vander, I think. But we have Vander and Benzo. And Benzo obviously is the biggest one. But we have Vi. They're at the center because he always looked up to Vi. But above, he knows Jinx is alive, but he still put Powder there, which is an interesting sort of artistic decision. And it's because Echo believes, and what he's trying to convince Vi is that the past is dead. Kill it. He's going full Kylo Ren. No, Powder, the girl that Vi used to know, and that Echo canonically had a crush on, was in love with, is dead. Right? She's gone, and she's not coming back. She's never coming back. And you have to sort of deal with things as they exist now. And this is what he's trying to tell Vi, but Vi is sort of not going to get it. And then on top of that, all of the people who have sort of died along the way. And nice touch, you can see at the top right, the girl that Jinx killed at the beginning is being painted on now. Because she has recently died, which sort of reinforces this is an ongoing thing where the people they care about are continually dying. And once again, top left, we have a clock. Any thoughts, Andrew?
I think my thoughts are that I agree.
I agree with that.
Do you agree with that?
Though the thing I will note that's kind of interesting, it kind of makes sense to the characters. I'm gonna go back a couple. Is if you look at how they've how he set up he has 4 in the center, right? Benzo on the left, Powder, then Clagger on top via the bomb. But Milo's sort of like squished outside the big sort of circle. And he's the only one with a profile shot as opposed to a facial shot. Or like a full frontal facial shot. Well, Vander has a profile as well.
We'll always be giving Milo a hard time.
Well, Milo was kind of a dick to everyone, so because this sort of forms a diamond.
Like, I'm freaking glad he's dead.
I don't think that, but he like forms a diamond. Like the 4 of them, the 4 people, Benzo probably cared about the most, forms a diamond. Then Vander, like the next biggest, is sort of off to the side overlooking them, and then Milo's sort of just in the middle connecting the two. So, you know. I just thought it was an interesting touch in the composition. Because he could have done like Benzo and Vander on the wings, and then the 4 friends in sort of a diamond pattern in the middle, but he didn't do that.
Indeed.
Right, and Echo says that's who she is now. And Vi looks at the ping, and then it zooms in on Powder, taking the exact wrong message of what Echo's trying to tell you. And now we're at the barrage. We have, this is the bridge scene we were talking about earlier. Not the big bridge scene, the little bridge scene. Where he's snuck in. And we're going to have this interaction between Jace and Victor. Because Victor has no idea what's going on. Right, so Victor has no idea what's going on. And Jace comes up, do you have any idea how this looks? There were a blockade in my partner like he's angry at him. And Victor has no idea what the fuck's going on. This shit got ordered while he was in Zon.
Yeah.
So already he's in a position of like being attacked.
But he's saying like, my partner coming out of the Undercity, like what the heck is up with that?
Right, and again, Jace is concerned specifically about appearances. He's not mad that, and this is because he makes the point because they're dangerous. Is going to be his justification at the end, but Jace doesn't come in like, oh my God, Victor, are you okay? You went to that dangerous place as a cripple. You could have been hurt. No, it's, you know how bad this looks for me. Hanging out with a Zonite. It's like I'm a Zonite, dude. What the fuck are you? But,
yeah, very much. Interestingly, he's worried about a bad look. I mean, that's a bad look for him.
Yeah.
In our eyes.
Yeah. But the other thing the other sort of the message he's sort of sending at this point is that it's a bad look to be with the Zonites. Victor's like, I'm a Zonite. Right? Is it a bad look for you for me to be your partner as a Zonite? Right? All in all, this is just a terrible showing from Jace. Like, he picks the worst things to say. But, like, Victor doesn't know what's going on, so of course, like, you ordered this? Why did you order this? What's going on here? And this is all fostering that distrust that Silka warns him about. Right, and this is also a terrible line, now that I think about it. Like, what were you doing there? I was consulting a friend. Remember, I said I had a friend about our inquiry? Well, you didn't say there were Zonites. Right, so what would you just prefer I die, Chase? This person might be able to cure me, but he's Zonite, so just die. Like, Jesus. Now that I really, really dig into this conversation, it just keeps getting worse. Right, because what would Jace have rather Victor do? It seems like not go into Zon. So all right, Victor gets no help for the condition, and he dies, and because it's bad for him to be associated with a Zonite like Victor, and also Victor knows about this guy because he's a Zonite. So there's sort of this other point is like, well, we don't want Zonites involved. They can't contribute anything. Which is exactly what Victor's been fighting against his whole life. Poor cripple from the Undercity. No one thought I could succeed. It's just every step of this it's terrible, Andrew. Absolutely terrible.
No, no kidding. Yeah, especially with what you just said, like that line, like Victor expects Ace to be freaking aware of the stuff that he confided to him about that.
Yeah.
Jace doesn't seem to like immediately insta forget.
Right, and
that's not great at all. I didn't realize that, actually, come to think of it. But yeah, this is also Jace's kind of low point as a character. This is kind of when he's sort of made some, you could say, mistakes, I guess, that are gonna
a serious and continuous lapse in judgment.
Exactly.
And to Jace's credit, as soon as Victor says the "I'm from Zon," Jace is like, "Oh, I'm acting kind of dumb." It's like, look, I'm
Exactly.
sorry, I'm stressed out like 21 pilots. All right, I got a lot on my plate, and shit's been real fucked right now, okay? And I didn't mean to say what I said. I'm a bit freaked out at the moment. Which, is something. But trust once broken is hard to get back. And so he asks, was your friend able to help? And Victor says no, and clutches where he's hidden the vial of shimmer. And this entire conversation is happening in the background of a bunch of Piltover enforcers beating the shit out of Zonites.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting worse. And then the last scene, of course, is them throwing the Molotov onto the bridge, which is sort of like shit's. It's becoming a dumpster fire very quickly. And this sort of, what better way to show that by adding literal fire?
Yeah, it's.
There's also because
you mentioned seeing the train.
Yeah.
Where he hearing the horn. That's the imagery that's happening.
Yeah.
It's just really escalating.
Yeah, and as well,
and like personally escalating too.
Yeah, and as well, Molotovs are actually like a super ineffective weapon. They're terrible. It's just fire and accelerant. And they throw it onto the ground so no one gets hurt and no one catches fire. But immediately, 5 of them come and rushing in to start beating up more Zonites. Which is sort of just, ain't that just representative of the whole fucking fight? Zon, fights back but isn't able to do a whole lot. And then the Enforcers come in and fuck everything up.
Interesting.
Oh, it's the scene.
Oh,
Here they go. Up the elevator. And notice, right, this is why I've sort of presented my theory on how sort of the caverns are supposed to work. But these guys are the sort of the heads of Zon. We're not really in the underground. In fact, on the other sides is the Piltover. They're above much of the Piltoverans. So the location is a bit symbolic. And so we're introduced to Mr. Jaw or Mr. Kill. I can't remember what it is. Finn.
and yeah.
What's in the box? What's in the box? But you know it's
Why? What's in the box?
what's in the box. It's a bit of a meme, but I like how they've sort of set up this meeting room. Because one, it's a ton of natural light, which you wouldn't see in Zon. But they've kept the colors of green, and they've kept like the green colorage. Like everything's very, very green. So this is Zon, but it's not really. Which is going to go to what Silco's point is. That you guys are up here, you're not truly Zonites in the way I'm Zonite. You're a bunch of fucking pariahs getting fat off.
And you didn't breathe the gas that we are used to breathing.
Right? And to sort of, as well to represent that, once again, we're going to colors. Everything's very green, but we have this bright blue fungus, or I can't tell if it's fungus or a butterfly or something in the right. We have blue on the left hand in the glass. There's tons of blue stained glass mixed in with the green. There's blue flowers. We have some more. Is it aqua green? So like a blue mixed with green, and we have blue on the chairs. So they're sort of in this flux state, where it has parts of Zon in it, but there's parts of Piltover in it, which I think has representations for one, lifestyle, right? They want to live like Piltovers, Pilties, so they're sort of infusing that sort of luxury into their Zonic characters. But as well, because they have sort of replaced, because now the Piltsies used to be the oppressors for the Zonites, but now it's them who are oppressing the Zonites. They've sort of taken up that role. What's the line? Old boss, same as the new boss. But yeah, so he comes in, and Finn's giving his speech, and everyone's watching.
What do you think of the voice of Finn?
Finn has my least favorite voice, but I don't think it's bad.
Okay.
I think the voice acting, we've talked about it a fair bit over the course. The voice acting is superb in this show. They have such great voice acting. I think his voice acting is good, but it looks bad by comparison. I think they have a lot of really great voice actors. And so Finn's voice feels, if it was Finn's voice in like any other show, it'd be fine. But it's probably the weaker performances amongst a number of really, 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 really great performances.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair.
And once again, as we've said so many times, we have this gradual unfolding to reveal what's happening, right? He's come in and he has a box. What's in the box? We don't know what's in the box. It's a mystery box. And Finn's giving his whole speech, but instead of focusing on Finn, who's giving this big speech like they were when Silco wasn't there, once Silco has entered and he's giving the speech, we get the fan, which has two key important things. One, Finn is giving his big speech, which is like this big rallying cry against Silco, but it's not important. It's not important enough for us to even see. What's important is this fan turning. More important than this guy's big rebellious statement. So there's like this sort of immediate tonal and this immediate power shift. Right? Whereas before, it seemed like Silco was like, I don't want to deal with these guys. Jesus Christ, this is going to be a mess. Suddenly it's, oh, Finn, you'd better stop talking, buddy. I think, right? The animators don't even give enough of a shit about your speech to show it.
That's what I was kind of getting at earlier. Like, he goes, all of a sudden, he goes super confident and just has this great plan to, like, get them back into place or whatever.
Yeah. Right, he's worried about Jinx. He's calmed down now. And he's like, okay, you parasites. Let's put you in your place. And then I'll go fucking deal with the rest of this shit. But he comes in, and this is the unfolding. We see the fan turn, but it's not explained why is it not turning. This is weird. What does this have to do with anything?
Yeah.
And so we come back, and we have the bluff. Jinx will deal with it. Finn calls. She's off her leash. She's not listening to you. Can't handle, and that's a good line. You can't handle your own people. He's Silco's people, right? This is sort of a bit of a veiled threat. You can't handle the people. You can't stop me, right? What the fuck are you going to do? And then Savika turns. It's going to be what happens next. Well, before Savika turns, you hear the pshh. Once again, we don't know what's going on. Savika's hidden away. We don't see her gas mask. And then she's going to turn. And suddenly we realize something is happening. Oh, no. And then we see the gas canister. She drops it. This awful purple smoke is filling. Everyone starts coughing and choking. That's why they stopped the fan, to prevent air circulation.
Yep.
Everything's starting to click together. And even the visuals, you'll notice in like some of the close-up shot, there'll be like this sort of green mist around them. And there's sort of this sort of mirage effect that occurs sometimes. That makes things a little bit warpy. But now, right, you can see it there, the sort of misty bits. But we sort of have Silco's declaration of what makes me different from you. Right, you all are a bunch of parasites that I have pulled up from the depths that are living this luxury life. We're not about making, and this is the key difference, because they're all talking about how merchandise is frozen, they're not making money. And Silco's like, hey, this isn't about making money. Sometimes it's not about the money. It's about sending a message. Pulls a Joker on him. But right, this isn't, right, this is why he's, what he's saying, you're parasites because you care about the money. This isn't about the money. I don't give a shit about the money. This is about Zahn. And he's trying, and that's why this is such a great symbolic moment, because this is the air they force us to breathe. And you give a fuck about money? We were dying in the mines. But now you have this luxury life. You've forgotten why we're fighting. Allow me to remind you. And this is sort of the initial. But the subtext is, I can send you right back down to those mines. I can bring the mines to you. And you'll die in them. Because you only exist because I allow you to.
It's very much a sort of moment of like, I don't know, it's just such a, it's like the equivalent of like, I don't know, like like my boots or whatever, right? Like just like like I own like here's your gas mask. Like I'll have you like on your hands and knees crawling up to me to get it, right?
You exist, my air from my lungs to yours. You exist off of me, not
Yeah.
independent of me. And one of the cool animation tricks I liked what they did here is if you look at the image right now, they take Finn's jacket off because Finn, when he has the jacket, has a more like square. He looks bigger, and then when the jacket adds a lot of space to him, makes him more square. But when he's weakened by Silco by this gas, the jacket comes off and he looks much smaller. And it's a great sort of visual trick to make him look big, and then when and look small. He's big when he's like challenging Silco, but when Silco enters that challenge, he's meek and weak and pitiful and like gasping around on the ground.
Interesting imagery.
Yeah. And all the shots are us looking down on Finn, looking up at Silco. Really
Yep.
really pushing that power imbalance that Silco is trying to portray.
Yeah. It's basically their point of view too.
Yeah. And Silco takes a drag from my lungs to yours. And then don't forget again, this is your one warning. Next time, I'll kill you. And then the fan, in case you didn't remember why, or didn't catch it, starts up to clear out the air. And notice, and this is a cool detail, look at the plant in the back. The plant in the back that was like purple and red and full of life is now dead on account of the gas.
Instantly.
Reinforcing how fucking reinforcing both the level of danger in opposing Silco, but also the sort of horrific conditions of the Undercity that prompted Silco to begin this fight in the first place. Which is sort of and this whole scene is meant to be a reminder of that on the literal level and the metatextual level of like, I've given you your life. I will put you back in those mines, and I will kill you to fuck your shit up.
Yeah. Well, Max, I should be getting going soon.
All right.
I'm just,
Do you want to? Yeah. Let's call it here then.
Sure.
I would rather try and. The next big scene is I think is oh no, it's not. It's the Medarda scene. Do you want to do Medarda getting the letter, or do you want to call it here?
I don't know if there's a whole lot to say about it. We can go for it.
Okay.
Pretty short.
That'll put us at the halfway mark for next time. And I'll see about getting something that has a bit better. My laptop only has so much processing power, and it's a bit too much, unfortunately.
Sure. Sure. Is that gateway thing active or inactive?
I'm not sure. They shut it down at the council.
Did they bring it back up though with all the like political machinations that he did in that one episode? He was at the stage. I'd like to play.
It's never explicitly stated.
Hmm.
Okay, we'll call it there. But so what do we think about the scene with Mel, Right. She comes in. She says Piltover looks weak. Mel says Jace isn't ready, and then it gives her the letter from her mom, and we know it's from her mom because it has the. They don't tell us, but it has the symbol, so you can figure it out. Right. Great usage of visual storytelling. What do we think of this scene?
Have we seen the symbol before? I mean, yeah, like the.
Yes, it's the Medarda house crest thing.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not sure if there is really a whole lot to say about it. She gets a letter. Well, I guess the significant thing would be where we know from. Where are we learning about Mel by her saying like Ace isn't ready and stuff. Um,
I wonder which way
I don't know.
she's worried, because Jace kind of goes both ways. He starts off not wanting to do any violence or do anything, and then he sort of flips and says we need to go to war, and Mel's against that.
Yeah.
Typical women, no idea what they want.
Always changing their minds.
But that might be Mel's point, right? Mel is trying to walk this line because she doesn't want to fight. So she's trying to walk this line of projecting strength without having to use the strength,
Right.
which is a very difficult balance, which she inherited from her brother, who her mom obviously who is dead now, and her mom disagrees with. Her mom's like, we must use strength, and through our utilization of it, we betray it. Whereas her brother thinks war is a failure of statecraft. Only one of them's alive, though, at this point. Interesting. But yeah, she may be. She has. It's a very difficult line to walk, and so Jace doesn't have the sort of. Jace doesn't really have very good political capabilities. He's good with publicity, right? In some ways, he's a bit like Trump. Oh no, no, but he's very good. He's very good at sort of the public-facing part of politics, right? He gets everyone on his side. He's the man of progress. Everyone generally likes him, but he's not very good at the behind-the-scenes stuff, right? Mel's the one who's sort of orchestrating all the behind-the-scenes work for him, and so she's the Noam Chomsky to Jace's Bush. Jace, but yeah, so because like Jace is a populist, and populist politicians aren't very good at the behind-the-scenes stuff, but they are good at the public-facing stuff. And so Mel has kind of been handling all of the sort of inter-political workings of, let's say, Jace's campaign. Whereas, and Jace is like learning from her, but he's all he's really done so far is make a bunch of deals, and then get rid of Heimerdinger. Which, if we remember from that scene, he doesn't pre-plan it. He comes in and says we should get rid of him, and it's only after Mel provides him support in the voting, seconds his vote, that everyone falls in line. So Jace doesn't really have a lot of the political instincts or abilities that would be necessary for navigating this sort of this crisis, which is demonstrated by the fact that he fails to properly navigate and gets the place blown up. But Mel is going to spend this whole time having to deal with this crisis and then bring Jace on board to her ideas while he's getting pulled in all these other directions. So it may be the case where when she says that, she's like, this is a very complicated situation that Jace simply does not have the capabilities to deal with. And I think to some degree she's trying to mold Jace into who she thinks would be the best leader. And he's not there yet. Unfortunately, people are less moldable than you'd think. But yeah, that's how I see what's happening in that scene. And then it's just problem compiling after problem. First, they're looking weak. Then Jace has to deal with the situation. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And then she gets a letter from her mom. This shit just keeps getting worse. All right, did you have any final anything you wanted to say on the subject before we close out?
I think you pretty well covered that aspect.
All right, in that case, you probably got to be getting to bed, and I
Yeah,
have to be getting some breakfast.
Oh yeah, gosh.
Right, so I've been Max Geng. You can find me at my website, maxgang.com, where you can read my short stories for free. Also, there's a card game in development. We might be releasing some art for the card game coming up and that I'm working on in development as well. So keep an eye out. You can follow me on Twitter or Minds. I'm on both. If you go to my website, I have a contact page. All my links are in there. I've been Max, and I'm here with my friend, author, and game developer, Andrzej Gieralt. You can see his YouTube is linked in the description. Andrzej Gieralt Creative. You can get his Obscure on Steam. You can go to his itch.io page, download some of the free games there. And you got a book, Dragon Slayers, on Amazon that you can go read. And you got some upcoming games. Anything you want to show?
Nothing to show just yet, but the design document is pretty well written out to the point where I'm ready to start working on my new game about a pope.
Good. Also, great YouTube channel. If you're interested in game development at all, I'd recommend it. You should check it out.
Thanks.
Got some really cool stuff on there, and you released a PDF with a bunch of stuff on it, like a developer kit or something.
A free starter guide, basically.
Right, so if any of that interests you, go check it out. Go check out his channel. It's in the description. My website's in the description. Check out either one. This has been me, Andrew, and I talking about Arcane, Episode 7, Part 1, The Boy Savior. And it's been great talking to you, and we'll see you all next time. Until then, fuck off.
I'll come back.